Tim Petrowich for Dateline Marion and WGGH Radio, and we're here for our weekly visit with Marion head football coach Jason Dunning. And before we talk about South Southern Conference opener coming up next week, we have to go back and talk about last Friday's game, a big 47-0 win over Granite City. You said after the game that wasn't what you expected.
That was not what I expected, Tim, at all. It's hard to judge film when you've got two athletic teams playing each other. And O'Fallon and Granite City both had kids running around. It was a pretty physical ball game. Athletically, they were getting behind O'Fallon. Quarterback was missing some throws. And you really don't know what to expect. And having a lot of young kids, how are they going to handle the speed of what Granite City had at receiver? I think I told you Friday night, I thought we could win. I thought we could score some points. But I did not have that outcome in my vision just because of the athleticism that they had. But the Wildcats played extremely well on all three aspects.
Granite City really didn't have an answer for your running game, especially Jordan and Patrick. And we talk about them a lot. First two times Jordan touched the ball, he had touchdowns. 128 yards on 6 carries and 3 touchdowns all in the first half.
Pretty good night.
Yeah.
Pretty good
night in the first half, yeah.
And, and the thing I love is, for the first time in my career, I'm able to listen into what the offense is doing. Before, I had to give up my two-way headset to Coach Skeet since he was doing double duty. Well, now I've got Coach Martin's former two-way headset, and I can listen in, and just hearing them, the offensive guys, Coach Vernon, Coach Skeet, Coach Brown up top, the three of them talking, and they said before Jordan, I think his second one, they said, hey, if we could get such and such block, this is going to score. I'm thinking, man. And so I'm watching, sure enough, they made the block, Jordan hits it, and gone. And I'm like, okay, my guys are pretty good. They know what they're talking about.
Apparently Jordan knows when he's going to score, too. I talked to you about this briefly, but there was an injury delay. A young man from Granite City was hurt, and we found out he was released from the hospital, and he appears to be okay. But during that delay, Jordan was kind of stretching on the sidelines, and I walked by, and he stops me, and he says, hey, next play is a touchdown. And the delay was over, and the Wildcats lined up on offense at the 40-yard line and handed to Jordan, and boom, he went 40 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah, he felt it. He sent me a text Friday afternoon and said, hey, we got you tonight, Coach. And there's things that Jordan does that I see every day in practice, and I think he's finally starting to get a real grasp of the talent that he's been blessed with. And it's fun to see that come out against someone other than me during practice. So I enjoy watching he and Patrick and those guys. And I'll tell you what, Ryan Colon right there with him. We've got 3 guys that can all 3 run the ball very, very, very well. And I'm glad we've got that to help out young quarterback and young receivers. And you've got a lot to worry about when you're trying to defend the Wildcats.
We've talked about Jordan, Patrick, another 75, 80-yard game on Friday night. He just as consistent as ever. You mentioned Ryan Colon. We've talked about Logan Hoffman, who had a touchdown Friday night. Another new face comes up Friday. A freshman in Marcus Hazel, and he finished with 66 yards in just a short period of time. And probably would have had more, but he had the ball knocked away from him on a long run that might have even gone for a touchdown.
Correct. And so our issue there kind of was we had a couple kids get dinged up that we wanted to fill those backup roles, because here we are against Heron trying to close out the game, and I'm looking at those guys and we're talking as a staff going, hey, we've got to get Callahan out. We need to get running backs out. And Coach Vernon's like, I don't have anybody else. And I'm like, I do not want to be in that situation again where we've got our guys out there, because we don't. And so we talked with our lower level coaches and guys, and we kind of had our eyes on Marcus for a while, and it was a perfect situation to bring the little peanut up, and he He did that to us Tuesday and Wednesday at practice. And we saw, and I even gave him a shout out after the ball game, or after practice, sorry, and told him that at 14, 15 years old, I don't know if I would have gone to a varsity practice and ran around the way that he did. And when you do that against our guys, you catch our eye, and we thought, hey, this is an opportunity to show the youngsters some love on Friday night. And, I wish he would have hung on to the ball, but still, what he can do, I was very pleased.
You talk about that, about him coming into a varsity practice and running around and taking that chance and getting a few good licks in practice. That speaks to something that was brought up on Friday night as well, and that's the fact, the physical nature of your defense. The young guys are not afraid to hit people.
They're not afraid to hit. And going into it when you got so many guys who are untested, that's in the back of your mind. And my goodness, I mean, we that's normally not Marion's MO as far as what we want to try to do. We want to get numbers to the ball, but we were physical. We played well. Guys flying around, and O'Fallon's coaches Granite City's coaches afterwards said we were just as physical as what O'Fallon had been the previous week, and that's a big plus, especially with seven young kids out there for the Wildcats.
And you talk about that physicality on defense, and a lot of times when you see physical, you see some late hits, you see some different things like that. You were dinging some guys for Granite City and had one penalty in the entire game, which was a delay of game penalty when you were trying to set up your victory formation at the end of the game. So not only was it hard hitting, but it was clean.
It is clean, and and I tried to continue on with the tradition of Marion football and the program, and that is that we want to be sound, we want to be disciplined. We don't want to give anybody free yards or free opportunities, and we try to focus on little things, because we often tell the kids little things mean everything, and we don't want to allow teams the opportunity to get additional yardage when you're playing a game against an opponent who can score, and if you give them more shots, they can do some stuff. And so we want to try to limit the penalties and play as clean and within the rules and the confines of the game as much as we can.
Granite City was able to move the ball a little bit better than Heron did the week before, but even when they got close, especially late against your second unit defense, those guys may have given up a few more yards, but they were opportunistic and pounced on a fumble late that kept Granite City out of the end zone.
And for years we tried to sub, and I even told the guys during our brief halftime talk that the second half is going to go really quickly, and you guys that serve as those scout team, as those backup guys, you're going to get an opportunity to play, and that the only thing that we ask is that you play hard, play with purpose, play for each other. And they came out in the second half, and I was really happy and really proud of those guys to go in there. Kid like Bryce Watson, who's a scout team guy all week, jumps out there, pounces on the ball, and I was afraid we were going to lose that shutout. And, I pride myself on, we make shutouts a big deal. And oftentimes over the years, we sub and you put your guys in, and our kids just kept playing, kept fighting, and hey, hats off to them. I'm happy for them.
The Granite City against the second string was the only time they got into the red zone the entire game. We were one of the Super Sixes, red zone scores against red zone opportunities, and 0 for 1. And I'm thinking they only got in there. Yeah, they only got into the red zone one time the entire game.
That one drive, and I think we had a miscue, something, and gave them the ball. But no, we played really well. We played really well. That they came out, and that young secondary, after seeing them on film, seeing the vertical ball, we went back. Their quarterback, Lyons, runs around against O'Fallon and chucks it, and we marked it off going down the television screen, and he threw it about 62 yards. And I think early on we were playing a little bit soft, kind of respect their speed a little bit, and they started hitting the short balls, and so then we adapted our coverage and widened it out a little bit laterally and took away the short game, and we played well. We played well and eliminated their opportunities, and then I think once again up front, defensive line led by Malachi Cooper. Hey, he just kept catching their GT, their little counterplay, kept catching it from behind, and they just kept running it, and he kept getting it and put them in long yardage where we knew what was coming, and great job of the defense executing the game plan.
I think one of the things you're going to be working on this week is putting together your second unit kick return team.
Yes. All the time we've got the ability to sub a lot of things. Second team, backup offense, backup defense, but a lot of coaches don't have a backup return team. All new 11 guys, and we were trying to throw it together, and it was just chaotic. And then you're putting guys out there that have no clue what they're doing. And I finally just looked at Coach Schulmeister, and we talked about it, and we kind of agreed upon let's put our regular return team out there, get the ball, then we can put our second team offense out, blah blah blah. Well, then all of a sudden they kick a very returnable kick right to Jordan, and I just kind of, you're up 40, you don't want to feel like you're rubbing it in. But they kicked the ball right to Jordan, and Jordan's a special player, and he just took off and did what he did. But I had the opportunity to talk with their coaches and told them, I said, that was not our plan. And he said, you can't, and I utmost respect to him. He looked at me and just said, Coach, you can't ask your kids not to play hard. And I said, that is 100% correct. I said, we pride ourselves on playing hard, and ball was kicked to Jordan, and he did what he's always done, just takes off running and made something happen.
Were you kind of hoping that when he dropped it, he'd have trouble picking it up and they'd get to him?
And they just kind of was like, just take a knee, get down, do something. But no, I was happy to see him score, and he came over with a big smile, gave me a hug, and I said, okay, now you're done. Go over there. But yeah, no, it's fun.
I don't know if you've watched the film or not. I watched the replay of the kick return 3 or 4 times, and the one thing I noticed is he's being chased from behind. He's being caught up to from behind about the 30, 35-yard line. The kicker is back. That's the last guy between him and the goal line. He makes a move on the kicker that throws the kicker into the way of the guy chasing him, so that he uses a Granite City guy to block the guy who's chasing him to go in the last 30 yards for the score.
And I haven't talked to him about it, and honestly, I did not go back to watch it. But Jordan has a incredible ability to see the field, and I think he had it all set up. I don't know if he knew about that kid back there or not, but I think he just wanted to make a move on the kicker, and I think his buddies, Patrick and the rest of them, would have kind of given him even more of a hard time had the kicker made a play on him. But hats off to Jordan, incredible night, 4 touchdowns, 1 on special teams, and I'm happy for Shu that his special teams got a big kickoff return.
Let's talk about Mount Vernon.
Okay.
Coming up this week, South 7 conference opener. Let's talk there first, because it's a weird season where Mount Vernon is coming in week 3 for the South 7 conference, and they've already played a conference game. So with the departure of Althoff and the juggled schedules, it's kind of just put everything out of whack.
Normally, because for so many years we had the same schedule. We knew what the progression was. We knew what the thought was. And now for Mount Vernon to already be ahead in the conference, and we've not even played a real conference game yet, it's just weird. I don't know another word, but the shakeup and the fact that we get them again at home.
Yeah.
We had them at home last year. Now we have them at home again this year. But Mount Vernon coming off a loss, I know this. Coach Mings is going to have that group ready to go. We talked about it in our film session yesterday. That do not, because I think we talked about it on the show last week. You can't look at scores.
Right. Oh,
you
yeah.
can't look
kidding.
at scores and go, man, Carbondale got beat pretty good the first week, got beat really bad by Murfreesboro. And then Carbondale beat Mount Vernon, who people kind of thought was the favorite going into the season, and then they got beat, and it's like, no, you can't look at those. You can't look at scores. But I know this: anytime Mount Vernon and Marion get together, it's going to be a physical ball game. It's going to be a competitive ball game. You've got a lot of athletes on both sides, and then coming off a loss, Coach Mings will get that group kind of rallied behind, and they're going to come here ready to go. They're going to come here, and we've got a target on our back that we're 2-0 and played well in 2 straight weeks, and the Rams are going to come in here completely prepared.
One of the things you mentioned is that in that game against Carbondale, Mount Vernon got dinged up a little bit, had a couple of quarterbacks get hurt. Of course, it always makes it more fun to prepare when you're trying to figure out which quarterback is going to play. And you saw that when you played we played Cahokia last year, and
yes,
you're prepared for their starter, and then he doesn't play, and their backup goes nuts. So it makes it a little more difficult. But Mount Vernon's it's kind of a team that even with different guys in, they're one play away from the end zone.
Correct. We knew going in, especially the Nesbitt kid. Jordan, maybe 1 or 2 kids from Cahokia, they're all lightning in a bottle. And if you give them any space, they can do some stuff. And they've got Nettles, and they've got a couple other players that have some speed, and they're going to be aggressive. They're going to be physical. But I like how you say, kind of sarcastically, it's fun preparing. No, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare to try to prepare. But it's what we do as coaches, and I even kind of prefaced it with the kids yesterday that until we see them come out of those locker room doors in today's game, and coaches, sometimes stuff is put out there, you don't know. I said, you've got to prepare for what Mount Vernon does, prepare for them to be at full strength, and then unless something comes out throughout the week or unless we hear something otherwise, we're preparing for Mount Vernon, and we've got, as we always do, we don't go in with just one plan. We've got plan A, plan B, continues to go down a few more levels, but no, we've got stuff ready, and I know this, no matter who's back there taking the snap, you better be prepared for the Rams and what they do, because Coach Mings and Paul and the rest of his crew up there do an outstanding job, and they will have a game plan ready to attack the Wildcats, and we may have to make adjustments, and that's kind of been how it's been over the years, is that they do what they do very well, and they're going to have some schemes because they know, when you play somebody that many times and you have 2 staffs that have gone together, and I think one of the unique things is over the years we've really got to know each other amongst the staffs, because we come together in the summer and we're at the All-Star game, and that opens up those opportunities, and those guys are good, and I respect Dan, and I tell him that I root for him, 8 weeks out of the season. Just 1 week that, I don't want you to be on your best game. But no, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good matchup Friday night.
We've seen, looked at the box score of their first game against Waterloo. They put up 55 points against a Waterloo team that shut out Columbia the next week. So again, it talks about how strange it is. But back to that quick strike ability, in that game, Mount Vernon had 4 or 5 defensive scores.
Yes.
And when you do that, there's just so many athletes that can make plays and do things. And to get 4 defensive scores against a really good Waterloo team.
And that's kind of been the word on the street, so to say, is that Mount Vernon is fast on defense. They're aggressive, they're fast. And with our kids, it's a different defense than what, take for instance, that Callahan has seen every day. He sees a very, very sound Marion defense in practice, and this is a defense that's not what we do. Not that one's better than the other, because both defenses are very opportunistic and can create turnovers, but I'm sure that they have the same kind of philosophy: do what you can on defense to get the offense the ball back. And when you face a Mount Vernon team that's like that, they're going to be aggressive, and our kids have to raise to the level of the South 7. And we kind of talked with the team going into Friday night that, it was military night, and we talk about falling back on our training. We also talk about that to be successful. We bring up the parallel with the Navy SEALs is you've got to divide things up, and our season's kind of divided up into we got to get out of the gate weeks 1 and 2, and then 3, 4, and 5 is the workload, the real workload of the season, going Mount Vernon, Christian County, and Cahokia, and we've got to get through there, and it's going to be 3 challenging weeks starting off with the Rams, so time to play.
Health-wise, you're getting a little bit better. Got a couple guys back on the line, and that certainly helps because we've talked about your depth at running back and receiver and things like that. Those guys can go hard and not worry about when the other guy comes in. Now you've got that situation on the line too.
And now we got some, especially getting Levi Tanner was one of the big pieces that we needed back. He was a two-way starter. Played offensive tackle, played defensive end, but having him back really improved and brought some real continuity back to the offensive line. That group was back at full strength and ready to go, and he made some big plays on both sides of the ball.
Saw one guy limp off with a cramp, and he was back in a couple plays later, and now 2 weeks I think you had two players cramp up, and we saw a lot of cramping on the other side of the ball.
We've done I think it really started probably Rochelle game 5 or 6 years ago about the being diligent, not just telling the kids, hey, you need to drink, you need to hydrate, but really taking some proactive steps and preventative measures going into the ball game, and even to the point of in our pregame inside the cafeteria, we've got Gatorade, we've got bananas. When we go to film session, we brought in cases of water, and they had to, before they could leave film and go to practice, they had to get that water intake in. And Coach Pauls does a great job, even in our fitness PE classes, of being diligent on hydration. And I think it just goes to show that our plan has and we research it. We talk to people. We've got a guy here in town, Rob Landis, that studies this stuff and gives us ideas and tips, and we're able to talk to him and encourage the kids to do the right things and explain to them the emphasis on that. And Coach Vanoy brought up, if you're not available to us, you're of no use at that time. That you didn't do what you needed to do to play, and now you're on the sideline. And we've been, like I said, Heron, we had one kid, he did not miss a play, but he could tell it was kind of, and so we had jumped on that, because once it starts, you lose them. And then same thing Friday night. So yeah, knock on wood that we're doing the correct thing and it's paying off.
Well, what is Friday night other than conference opener? Is there anything other special? Because we talked about, military night and senior night and pink out night are all coming up.
Hey, no, it's just a heck of a ball game. And, and one thing I want to just throw out there, you can't plan for it. I've got a couple emails and I've had a couple teachers stop me and tell me how great it was. We had the opportunity, being up at 40, having the continuous clock starting. As we're going into the tunnel, I looked at Coach Skeet and Coach Vanoy, and I was like, do we really need to go in here? Do you have a whole lot to say? No. So we rallied around our guys, and it gave us the opportunity, because you brought it up, it was military night.
Right.
And our pregame talk was about playing a game that our servicemen and women out there go and fight for our freedom and allow us the opportunity to play this game, that we had the unique chance to go out and spend halftime out there as football players. Everybody comes to the game to watch the football players play, watch the Wildcats play. And this was kind of an opportunity for us to give back and be there to support the band, the cheerleaders, watch the Palm girls, because they're like, hey, did you see it? No, we were in a halftime. We don't get to watch that. But we got to go and watch them perform. And then most importantly, we've got a unique ceremony where we honor all the current and veteran service men and women at halftime, and they're out there standing there. And to have all of our players out there in their military jerseys showing their appreciation. Someone sent me a picture. It was really cool. And I'm glad that we took the initiative and had the opportunity in the ball game to pay back to them, to say thank you for them. So that was a cool thing.
And then how many of them, 2/3 of them dropped to give them 20?
Hey, drop down, and they're like, I was like, hey, hats off to you guys, and shake some of their hands. And that was just cool. And that's not something that you can necessarily plan for, because someone said in the email, asked, that was cool that you guys scheduled around that. Well, we just did our job. We took care of business, and we're up at a point where there was no scheming, there was no adjustments, we weren't on the board. Get out of the locker room, go show your support to your fellow classmates in the band and the Palms and the cheerleaders, and then most importantly, show your support of the men and women of the armed services.
Yeah, and then you knew you were going to run the second half kickoff back for a touchdown anyway, so it didn't make any difference.
We were going to score and add another one on there, yeah.
Friday night this week at Wildcat Stadium, Mount Vernon comes to town. South 7 conference opener, big game, 7 o'clock. I encourage you to be here. The atmosphere is great. It'll be a fun time.
It'll be a fun time. I love our atmosphere and what we've got going on here, and now to bring a big game, and I think Mount Vernon's going to bring a big crowd. It's going to be fun.
All right, that's Marion head football coach Jason Dunning. For Dateline Marion and WGGH Radio, I'm Tim Petrowich.